Let's dive in. David, perhaps you can introduce yourself. And then I just want to say, as of a couple hours ago, unfortunately, Adam had a little family emergency. Everything's fine. I know a lot of you have met Adam and love Adam, but he runs our venture arm. So underneath Adam, we have our entire venture team at Truffle Ventures. Our website's truffle.vc. Please go check it out if you're not familiar with us. And there's a lot of videos of Adam talking, and you can kind of get a feel for who he is. We're also going to be running more calls and webinars with Adam in the future, so you'll have an opportunity to meet him and chat with him directly in the future.
All right. Yeah, it seems like the intro here is pretty brief, but I started my career at Huobi, which is one of the largest exchanges in China, running their investment arm and also global strategy, helping them expand from a small exchange to over 170 countries and amassing over 10 million users internationally. So prior to that, I started my career in investment banking at Morgan Stanley, then went on to do my own Web2 startup in the event-based social networking space. Sold the company 3 years later, went to business school in China, where I really, solidified my presence in the Asia market, built my connections there. Went to a pretty large Web2 venture firm called Qiming Venture Partners, which runs over $9 billion today, but really was passionate about Web3. So then hopped on over to Huobi, where I led a lot of their early stage investments abroad, particularly in the US and a lot of European markets, before ultimately starting my own firm about 2 years ago called OP Crypto, which, really taking some of the best deal flow from both the Western markets, particularly the US, and also Asia, China and Southeast Asia, and have done about 20 deals so far. Really looking to bridge a lot of what's happening between the Western and Eastern markets, helping Western founders, get access to Asian retail markets through exchange listings, different distribution channels that we've built at Huobi to help them acquire early stage seed users, and then ultimately, helping them build a bigger brand across Asia in our PR marketing channels. And inversely, for Asia projects, helping them get institutional capital, where we've have LPs from some of the biggest institutional partners in the US, like DCG, Galaxy Digital, Animoca, et cetera, and helping them get a lot of that US capital, and also developers and presence in the Western market as well.
Yeah, I would also say you are just talking to other people, like everyone knows you. Whenever I meet people in Puerto Rico, like you have nothing to do with Puerto Rico, but whenever I bring up your name, everyone's, oh yeah, I know David with OP Crypto. I went to one of his Alpha DAO events. So you're kind of I would say, like who's who of venture in crypto. It's very impressive, and you can really help connect literally anyone to anything, I would say. It's quite impressive. Okay, short background on me. I have been running yieldfarming.com for the last 2 years. Looks like there's a few members in here. So if everyone from that community could please say hi, that'd be great. But we were the largest and the most prestigious DeFi education groups during the last 2 years. We have over 100,000 in our community at large. Prior to this, I ran a real estate fund, mainly a vacation rental fund. We had over 300 properties in our portfolio in 7 different countries, and luckily exited that before COVID. Very, very luckily. Okay, so what is Truffle Ventures? We are a early stage crypto and Web3 VC fund that offers projects access to our audience of 100,000 plus crypto native users. So the value proposition to projects there is not only can we give you money, but we can also help you with beta testers. We can help you. We can help connect you to get help with the listings or any potential like B2B help that we could assist with. And then of course we can bring you on if we like your project. We're extremely selective. If we like your project, then we'll bring you on for AMAs or kind of involve you in our community, and we can help a lot with that. So do you want to talk a little bit about Alpha DAO?
Yeah, so I think Alpha DAO ultimately was started as a side mission to really scale venture in a way where we're able to really collaborate with some of the best people in the space to see the deal flow, not only that they see on their side, but also to really generate a large group of contributors that can actively help projects grow as well. So I, along with Hui, have founded this essentially a consortium of deal generators, which include founders from some of the most prominent projects in the space, some other, GPs or, fund managers in Web3, and in addition to some KOLs that have massive distribution channels, and through a group of
what's a KOL, just for everyone listening?
Essentially just like a key opinion leader or someone that has a relatively large following either on Twitter or Instagram or some other channels, but particularly is really focused on the top Web3 fund managers and founders mostly. And this consortium of people will see effectively the deal flow from our own networks, bring it to this collaboration channel, and then all together will help, vet and ultimately decide on, the deals that we ultimately share to the rest of the cohort. And, ultimately finding people that are able to actively contribute via either, developing on the protocol or, helping really share the word to really spread and be the initial power users of a particular project.
Yeah. So to that point, what we're trying to create with our collaboration is first of its kind. I would call it a powerhouse, really, where what David was alluding to was, putting together these 40 to 50 thought leaders in the crypto space, specifically in the venture side, who can share all the deal flow, the best deal flow that they're seeing. And then from that group, we're going to hand select through extremely intense filtering the best deals that David and his team, who you guys have looked at like 4,000, 5,000 plus white papers. So the deals that David and his team, as well as Adam and our team, and as well as the thought leaders in this group, select as the best deals. And we're going to offer that deal flow to our entire Truffle Ventures and Alpha DAO community. So we'll talk more about that as we progress through the presentation. So as I mentioned, our goal is to see 80% plus of all the deal flow in all of crypto. And I think given the fact that we have some of the best venture capitalists from gaming, David, perhaps you can talk about some of the people in this group on the generator side and why you think we'll see such a huge percent of deal flow in crypto.
Yeah, so effectively we've targeted specific verticals, not only particularly to their own expertise, but also some of the most, coveted ecosystems in the space. So I don't know if you have the list of people, but I can just run through some of
please.
Large companies that they represent, right? So we have founders from QuantStem, from Polygon, from Snack Club, which is one of the biggest gaming guilds, from a lot of the biggest venture capital firms as well, like Ascensive Capital, Ledger Prime, a lot of sort of early stage builders as well. So on the website, you can actually see the full list of people on Alpha DAO. But particularly why this matters is that like each person has their own specific vertical where they cover, but in addition to that, they're able to help tap into some of the biggest ecosystems in the space, but also serve as, for example, like QuantStem, everyone needs a smart contract audit, right? So like they see all the deals before they actually get to the venture capitalists, right? So that's actually even a stage ahead of before investors see, because everyone ultimately needs to have a verified smart contract audit before going to raising capital from investors. And so we have founder of QuantStem and the founder of Hellborn, which is two of the largest smart contract auditing firms in the space. and they pretty much do exactly probably 80% of all the smart contract audits in crypto. So yeah, I mean,
great. Yeah, there's a few names, big names David didn't mention. Highly recommend everyone go to the AlphaDAO website and check out the full list. The main idea is that this is going to be one major part of the collaboration here. So we're going to see 80% of all deals. And then the second part is, of course, the Truffle Ventures community, which is going to make up 70% of the capital on every deal that we put together. So as you guys know, I'm putting personal money, and we as Truffle Ventures put money into every single deal. There's not a deal that we don't put money into, which is why we've only done 4 deals out of the last 300 that we've seen. And so part of that is we're being super selective, and amongst the deals that we select to do with David and everyone else's help from the Alpha DAO generator community, they are going to make up 30% of the capital, and we are going to make up 70%. So most of the allocation is going to us. And as someone who has been in crypto since 2015, this is something that I've always wanted and never been able to get, especially since our conversation where you essentially mentioned that early stage venture is kind of like cheating. So we'll talk about that in a minute. And every deal that we do is going to be the standard 2 and 20 management fee and carry per deal. It's all organized through AngelList, which is amazing. I can't tell you how many deals I did in 2022 and 21 via email, and I don't even know where my tokens are. I don't know how to grab them. It's extremely disorganized. There are a few people who put these deals together in Puerto Rico, and I love the fact that it's all done through AngelList. You send USDC. If we win, you get USDC back. It's all handled by our team. There's no token claiming and management and grabbing your own vest, every month for 3 years. It's all automatically handled. We also run weekly calls with myself, people like David Gahn, like Adam, and our coaches. We're sharing everything that we can regarding DeFi Alpha. Of course, our company is called yieldfarming.com. Public launches we're excited about. Maybe we didn't get an allocation, but we really like the project. Getting called by Andrew Masanto, denied. And just funny timing because we're going to talk about Andrew in a little bit. Okay, so let's move on. I want to talk about your philosophy on how sharp venture capitalists are basically legally cheating here. What did you mean by that 2 years ago?
Yeah, so it's really kind of unfair in some ways, right? I think instead of putting it as cheating, but I think ultimately putting yourself in the best position to win, right? So when you think about venture capital, you're only really competing against maybe, probably less than 1,000 other venture capitalists in the world right now that's actively investing in crypto. Whereas when you're investing in the public or secondary market, you're pretty much competing against the entire field, right? Which as of today, probably comprises of a little bit under 100 million people, right? So what is the easier race to win, right? Competing against 1,000 people or competing against 100 million people, right? So I think at the end of the day, people that have access to some of the top deal flow is very few and dozen, right? So being able to put yourself in the same field as those people already is a small victory on top of the greater victory once you ultimately invest in some of these major deals that can really have way more upside in the secondary market, right? When you think about some of the biggest wins in secondary market history, ETH, or Aave, Compound, or Uniswap, et cetera, all of these had essentially private investments available that were 100 times lower in terms of price versus what anyone was able to buy them for in the secondary market, right? So it's effectively, when you think about venture, is that before something becomes public, there's opportunity to invest at an earlier stage. And I think with crypto, you almost take the same amount of systematic or arbitrary risk investing in private markets than the secondary market. So it's not like secondary market, you have a ton new information that you didn't know before when you're investing in at the venture capital stage. But this is effectively like you being able to invest in, like, I guess compared to the Web2 space, like Facebook, Amazon, Google, et cetera, at the earliest stage before you're able to buy them on the stock markets, right? And I think when you mention it works in the bull and bear market, it's actually venture works inversely, right? When we are currently in a bear market right now, it's actually a bull market for venture. And when it's actually a bull market in sort of the secondary market, it's actually a bear market in venture. When you think about when sort of some of the best deals have been done in history, it's always been done in the bear market, right? When you look at a lot of the highest performing investment deals, like what I just mentioned in the last cycle, Aave, Compound, Uniswap, et cetera, they were all founded in the bear depth of the end of 2018, early 2019. Yep. So the most amount of investment activity you should be doing is actually in sort of our thoughts, the bear market, and the activities that ultimately you're able to have the highest upside is also in a bear market, which also, I've stayed true to my philosophy. Within OP Crypto, we'll have over 80% capital still remaining saved up to be able to deploy in sort of the bear market for the secondaries, but let alone ultimately being able to tap into this market where we consider it actually to be a bull market for venture. So the idea is ultimately in this 2 to 3 year timeline is to invest in the depth of the bear market and to be able to cash out or take profit in the bull market when ultimately everything is able to be compounded.
Yeah, I think the thing that really stuck with me was that you're just like all the tokens that I was buying in secondary markets, you guys and others similar to you had bought at like 1/100th of the price like a year ago while they were building. And so it just didn't you're basically, unless you have considerable insider alpha, you're essentially just guessing in secondaries. The second thing was that, you told me that I needed lottery tickets in my portfolio and I didn't really have them. Like I was buying in secondaries and maybe I was buying some small and medium cap projects, but I didn't have any like potential 1000Xs. And the only way to get that is through venture. So whether you're allocating 2% or 15% of your entire investment portfolio to early stage venture, you got to have those lottery tickets. And when you hit, it makes up for all the misses. Moonshot bets is what we have written down here. The third thing is that giving your money to people that have been doing this for a really long time, and this is just my own philosophy, you can take it or leave it, has always seemed really smart to me because, you guys are doing all the work and you're keeping roughly just 20% of the profit. Like all your experience over the last 7 years, all of the hustle that you're doing with 10 plus people full-time on the venture side, hunting for the best deals, thinking deeply, reading 4,000 white papers, and then applying that experience to selecting deals amongst a group of other people who have the same experience as you. And I'm keeping 80% of the profits. Like that seems like a no-brainer. And so I'm happy to give my money to people with fund experience. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, for that, I think that's the whole reason why I started Alpha DAO is because what you're mentioning for the 20% that we do take and the capital that we do ultimately raise, we only unfortunately raise from institutional investors. This means large listed companies, large consortiums, or like just large investment vehicles that ultimately put capital to work with us. We unfortunately never allowed retail investors to invest in the venture fund. But ultimately, what this new consortium of Alpha DAO is really unlocking that access to the greater retail community and being able to participate in this new investment vehicle. So that's why, ultimately we're excited. It's great making money for a lot of these bigger enterprises, but I think for the space to really grow is to be able to make money alongside or helping those that are just coming into the space learn more about the space, but ultimately, get their own piece of the pie as well.
Yeah. Okay. Before we move on, just by a show of hands, can those of you where this is making sense, like you get the value proposition of early stage venture, and why it's kind of like legally cheating, just put a 1 in the chat if you get it and a 2 if you don't, because I'm curious if it's really resonating with all of you. Okay, a lot of 1s. All right, this is cool. Great. Okay. So how Truffle Ventures venture arm works is actually quite similar to OP Crypto. We built a venture team that's looking for the best deal flow in emerging markets, and we can fund fast as well as help bootstrap their user base. As I mentioned, we have over 100,000 in our community. We can leverage this community to get deals because our audience equals beta testers, early adopters, and free promotion for these projects that we think are really, really cool. Okay, so a little bit of a teaser, but we have a little bit of allocation left in, as I mentioned, one of the most coveted deals of the year. It is a deal that both David and I have been fortunate enough to know the founder on, Andrew Masanto, and for many of you, this will be familiar, but the project is Nillion. David, you're very close friends with Andrew as well, and you're also an investor in Nillion. Do you want to talk just briefly about like why you're so bullish on the project? Obviously, we have some slides prepared here, but I'm just curious to hear your take. I know the founders, and the founding team is kind of crazy, like one of the best founding teams I've seen in crypto before. Several founders who have already made unicorns coming together, like Uber and Indiegogo, and of course Andrew being the founder of Hedera and RSR. So just curious to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so for me particularly, this is a founder's bet, right? So as you mentioned before, I've known Andrew for about 5 years now, and he essentially built Nillion in the backyard, having been my roommate for the earlier on of last year. So we were the first investors in, but ultimately, before he went on to even build Nillion, a lot of brainstorming between him and I on what would be some innovative technology going forward where they can really unlock the Web3 ecosystem, right? So for him, or for this project particularly, it's really, like you mentioned before, like we really like backing repeat founders, right? So people that have built something significant before and are able to take that experience and bring it onto their new project, right? And a lot of it is not even about him. Through him, I've gotten to know Alex, gotten to know Andrew, his CMO, pretty well as well. So together, the 4 of us, I think, really mold together as a team, right? I think as much as we're an early investor, we also consider ourselves part of the team as well by being able to be early contributors, but also helping them on the day-to-days as well, when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to PR, when it comes to bringing on other additional investors. I think we also play a pretty integral part in supporting the early stage projects that we ultimately back. And in addition to that, I think he's really built a really, really solid team around him in addition to himself as well. People with real Web2 experience, like the founding engineer of Uber. They brought in, I think, the chief legal officer of Coinbase, and et cetera. I think a lot of just really good teammates around him that can really scale this internationally across some of the major markets as well.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Beyond betting on the founding team, the technology and the potential of the technology is pretty insane. I think, it could be one of those, if the technology works, and everything I'm seeing from, Dr. Miguel Vega indicates that it does work. We're going to, I mean, there's, in my opinion, this is potentially a $500 billion type of idea. So I'll just talk about Nillion briefly, but the best place to get maximum information about Nillion is going to be Nillion.com. It's a deep tech play, and so it's just better to go to the website where you can read about all the use cases of Nillion, as well as what they're building. But essentially, it is a technological breakthrough in decentralized storage and computation of private data. So imagine all of the patient data that exists in hospitals. It is illegal for them to share that data with deep tech analysis firms, because it is doxing to the individual patients. So what Nillion enables is a way for all this data to essentially be sharded into hundreds or thousands of different individual data models, and then analyzed, and then the analysis can be done without actually doxing the individual patient data, and then recompiled in a way that makes sense. And you can do this across storage. So literally anything that you can think about in terms of secure and private storage or privacy in general, this technology can displace. So you think about KYC, that's a massive use case. Imagine, all of these centralized exchanges pay roughly $50 to KYC an individual user. So they're spending tens of millions to KYC all of the users for each of these exchanges. Nillion would enable a way for there to be a centralized KYC service that is trustable, and allow users to simply use that KYC token to log into these exchanges, and the exchanges would individually verify with wow, this is going crazy, with Nillion. So there's just there's dozens of amazing breakthrough type of use cases on their website, and I really recommend everyone go check it out. I don't want to go too long in this presentation. We promised it would be short, and it is a very deep tech play. So I was forced to remove like 9 different slides I had about Nillion here, and I just really want everyone to go check out the website. So we have we officially, this came up because I want to talk about this. This is a TechCrunch article. There is no ability to invest into Nillion anymore whatsoever. We have the last remaining allocation. It was an oversubscribed round with that ended up raising more than 20 million. And we have just a little bit of allocation left to fill that round that we're able to accommodate investors from AlphaDAO or Truffle Ventures into this last round. So we'll talk about what that looks like in a minute, but this is the first deal that we're presenting, and it is relatively urgent because we're going to be closing this. We have to wire them, and so this is going to be closed in 2 weeks. So we'll talk about what that looks like. The total remaining allocation is 300K. I want to point out that the best deals don't have huge allocations. In fact, David, you can talk about this. Has that's been true for you, like your entire venture life, right?
Yeah, I think it depends on per round, right? So ultimately, in any particular round, the founders only raise enough capital to get by for the next 18 to 24 months before raise an additional round. So depending on ultimately which round you ultimately invest in, there's only limited investment opportunity in each particular round. You can obviously always double down in the later rounds, but the later you wait, the price is going to go up, right? So I think ultimately in private venture, it's good to get in as quickly as possible and also as early as possible. But that also means the allocation is going to be small, but that also allows you to get your toes wet and ultimately be able to get comfortable around the team, because once you invest, you're able to get a lot of updates with regards to what's happening internally within the team, what progress they've ultimately made, and like all the different partnerships that they've secured during that time period. And then you can decide to double down at a later date if you want.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to mention that there is a Q&A button at the bottom of Discord. And I'm sorry, bottom of Zoom. And if you click on that, you'll be able to type questions in. I'm going to answer a few now, but we'll officially open up the Q&A towards the end of this call. But you can start typing in your questions. So Dan saying in their Discord, they were turning down investors who couldn't bring something besides money to the table. They were being very selective because they know what they have. Yeah, exactly. So Andrew shared that with me as well. It was an oversubscribed round. They turned down a lot of money that couldn't add value, as David mentioned. And Andrew's told me this separately, that David has added incredible value to Nillion, both in connecting them to people to add to their team, in PR, in a number of different ways. So yeah, I happen to be friends with Masanto, and so we were able to get a decent chunk, and we have a little bit remaining. To get access to this deal and all future deals, you do have to be accredited. But we can talk to you. I'll talk about that in a minute. So just hold off on any questions related to that. Let me just wrap up this slide. So being a Truffle Ventures member gets you access to this deal and all future deals. There's a simple application. I'll give you a link to that in a minute. And the allocation is going to be given on a first come, first served basis. So how that works is we're going to take verbal commitments over the next 2 weeks, and then everyone's going to be weighted down. So if we get $1 million or $2 million in verbal commitments for this 300K, you'll be weighted down appropriately based on the amount that you committed. Again, being a Truffle Ventures member gets you access to this deal. So if you are an investor, then just head over to apply.truffle.vc to submit your application. And we'll get back with you within a couple hours. We have a team on standby that's going to be taking a look at that. If we think that you would be a good fit for the community, then we'll reach out to you to schedule a short 30-minute chat with someone on our team. Secondly, if you think that you're a deal generator, we'll reach out to you separately. This would be someone who runs a fund or has access to deal flow. Then we would add you into that deal generator community, and we'll also talk to you and figure that out with you as well. Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead and open up Q&A here. So please go ahead and type your questions there. Again, this is only going to be applicable to Truffle Ventures members who are accredited. So if you're not accredited, then you are not able to participate in deal flow. That's just to protect everyone on our team as well as yourself. You can quickly Google what an accredited investor means, but generally it's 200K in income over the last 2 years or over $1 million in net worth. Okay, let's get to Q&A here. Okay, have they started building the cryptographic primitive yet? Yes. So I was given a video by Dr. Miguel Vega showing how the sharding of data works. I believe they broke up a seed phrase or a private key. It was sharded. You could not penetrate each individual shard, and then it was put back together. It was very, very technical, and I know that they're going to be releasing some public videos on that soon. But from everything I've seen, the technology works. And I know they have like 50 or 60 letters of intent on using the technology. It's very, very cool. And Ernesto asking, how can we invest? So again, it's just apply.truffle.vc to get your application in. Jeff, hey, Jeff. Yes, you do have to be an accredited investor always. Anyone who's taking money from you for any sort of syndicate or special purpose vehicle, they're putting themselves and yourself at massive legal risk. So we have talked to like 7 different legal teams, and like almost zero fund managers will allow you to take money, or fund administrators will allow you to take money from non-accredited investors. However, we do have, Jeff, I know you're aware of this, but for everyone else, we do have a group within Truffle Ventures that where we share just a lot of everything that we're doing on the venture side. And as I mentioned, we have 5 to 6 live calls per week, as well as a newsletter. And within that group, our goal is to get non-accredited investors to accredited status, just sharing everything that we're doing and buying and investing in crypto, market movements on a macro level. Adam Spivak, who's not on this call, is, in my opinion, a genius, and his calls have been extremely insightful. Those are happening once per week. So that would be a potential group for you to join if you're not an accredited investor. Okay, anonymous attendee asking, presumably the accredited investor requirement only applies to those in the US, those in Europe and abroad. Yeah, there's different rules for people in Europe, and I know it's much more lax. In other words, there is no accreditation requirement. If you're in Europe, I believe there's like some loose law that it's like a couple $100K in net worth. So definitely book a call. Okay, Tom asking, how soon do you have to produce the cash? That would be, so we're going to close the round in 2 weeks. That means within, I would say, 3 weeks, we're going to indicate to everyone what their final allocation is, and then you're going to have to wire or send stable coins. Are accredited alpha members eligible to this? We need to join the Truffle network. Yeah, this would be only for Truffle Ventures members, and there's no min or max on this because the allocation is so small. I expect we're going to be oversubscribed. So I would say, roughly the minimum would be something like 5K, but beyond that, there's not. Normally our minimums are much higher. So previous allocation via Angel. Just interested why more allocation available now. So this is actually we had to kind of uniquely structure this where I'm essentially selling a part of my personal investment into Nillion, as well as a little bit of allocation that we left over for the Alpha DAO launch. So it's kind of a mix of me giving some of mine away, which I would really not like to do. And then also we had reserved a little bit for the Alpha DAO launch that we knew was going to be happening. But Ronald, you can still participate even in this round. Okay, this is more of a general question, but for David, this is questions for you. For someone that's interested in getting into venture space, but is not yet accredited, what would be the most valuable first steps to learn the space besides increasing income?
So I mean, that's what's so exciting about Web3 is that a lot of the information is very publicly available, right? So I have a lot of podcasts that I've been on, so feel free to look me up on Twitter or YouTube for some of the ways I talk about venture or like how I got to where I am today. So I've been in the space about 7 years now, and all 7 years I've been in venture. So a lot of that just comes with experience, right? Just getting your toes wet, investing, and I think maybe just investing alongside. Actually, I don't know if this is legal or not. I'm not really from the US, I'm from Asia, but if you have a friend that's accredited, maybe investing along with your friend and see how, those investments turn out. If it's not legal, please don't do this. But in addition to that, just, attending and really paying attention to some of the venture related panels and conferences, meeting more venture capitalists like myself to see what their insights are, what deals they're investing in, because every venture capitalist has their own expertise. My particular expertise is in gaming. I used to be a professional gamer, and also in Web3 social, where I, as you guys know, started and sold a Web2 social startup.
There you go. Okay, so we had allocated about 45 minutes for this call. I believe we answered most of the questions, but if we miss anything, just shoot us an email, support@truffle.vc, and we will help you out. Again, support@truffle.vc. And again, to join It's going to be apply@truffle.vc. David, anything you want to add here before we close up?
Yeah, I mean, I think just I think one thing to add is that you do need, I think that's one of the things that everyone needs to work on, is that you do need to set aside a certain amount of capital to be really successful in venture, right? I think you shouldn't expect your first deal to just be a home run, right? I think ultimately, us as venture capitalists, we invest in a multitude of deals alongside sort of our own resources to really be able to help those deals and projects grow to their maximum potential, right? And a lot of times, you can't just participate once. So that means the question earlier was that getting more capital is actually part of the venture capital game as well, because the more capital you can use to deploy, the higher likelihood you're going to have and be able to get your moonshot play sometime down the road, right? Because at the end of the day, it is somewhat of a numbers game, but it's actually of a much higher accuracy than trying to shoot your shot in secondary markets, right? You might be able to make 10-20% in secondary markets, and sometimes you consider that a win, but a lot of times your downside for secondary market is zero, right? And it's very hard to hold through the 100 or 1,000 X's. But venture, for each deal, your upside is almost always above 100x, and your downside is always just your principal that you put towards that venture, right? So essentially, if you run the numbers, right, you just need 100x out of 100 deals to break even, right? So the more 100x's that you get for each deal that you invest in, increases your multiple, right, that you ultimately are able to get on your principal money, right? So as long as you're able to get more than 100x, and assuming all 99 other deals go to zero, and within the batch of 100 deals, then you're making money. But with venture, it's also like very hard for a deal to go to exactly zero, right? Because a lot of times the deal itself will floor at the venture price. So ultimately, you're still able to, as sometimes, get your money back in some of these venture deals, but the multiple again, it's much higher.
Yep. Agree. You got to have moonshots in your portfolio. I'm sorry, guys. We're a little bit over time. I told David that this would just be 45 minutes. So again, please go to apply.truffle.vc. All your questions will be answered there, or emailing us support@truffle.vc, and we will help you out. David, thank you so much for joining. I'm super excited about this. Getting all of the giga brains in venture together to see all of the deals in crypto, and then creating an opportunity for Truffle Ventures to make up 70% of the allocation in every deal. It's actually crazy. And to be honest, the thing that I've wanted most in my life. I'm sad that Adam couldn't join this call, because in my opinion, he's also a genius. I know our community really loves him. A lot of you are on this call. So we're going to do another call soon with Adam, so you can all get an opportunity to meet him. Hopefully you learned a little bit on this call, and we'll be doing more live events and more calls in the future. And I'm just so excited about this, and over the next few years to make a bunch of money together. So again, David, thank you for joining. Thank you all for joining as well. Appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next webinar. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.